2 more minutes, we'll wait.
Yeah, fine. Good.
6:09, 1 more minute.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Sir, those
Good evening.
here, sir.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir. Sorry, sir, I'm in driving.
No problem. No problem. Please carry on. Yeah. So.
Yes, I will. Maybe another
Yes,
5
please.
minutes time. Sir.
No worries. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we start, sir?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Good evening to everyone, and welcome to this 2 weeks continuous professional development program. We are into now 5th day of our online program. And today with us, Professor Nathiappan, sir. I know him for last more than 25 years. He is guiding us in a lot of research in other area. So he'll be handling session from 6 to 7:30. After that, we'll have half an hour break, and 8 to 9:30, one more person from UAE, from bank, agriculture bank. He'll be handling project related. What are the different projects we can do in food and agriculture sector? So now I'll request our student coordinator Sangavi to formally introduce our test. Then it will be hand over to our sir. He will be handling from around 6 to 7:30. 1.5 hour session will be handled by our sir. Okay. So now I request Sangavi to formally introduce our guest.
Good evening, everyone present here. I take my privilege to introduce our resource person of the day, Dr. Nathiappan Subramanian sir. Sir is a professor of operation and logistic management and supply chain at University of Sussex, UK. Sir has 23 years of experience, including 21 years in academia and 2 years in a consulting company. Sir has a teaching experience in UK, China, Australia, and India. In the past, he was a consultant and led software consultancy projects based in India. He is recognized as the Fellow of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, UK, and a Senior Fellow of Higher Education Academy, UK. Sir has published 94 peer-reviewed referred research papers. His research areas are sustainable supply chain, risk and resilience, technology-enabled operations, and marketing interference and performance measurement. Sir, it is our great privilege to have you here as our resource person. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sangavi, for a nice introduction. Thank you, Dr. Ganesh, for giving me this opportunity. Apologies for the inconvenience because I have to do it a bit earlier because we have some other program here to do from 2, so afternoon UK time. So that's what I requested Dr. Ganesh to do it a little earlier, and then he was kindly agreed and accommodated me. So I don't want to miss this opportunity to meet you all and share some of the kind of research what we did in the past with respect to food supply chain. Currently, we are doing something from India context too, so especially on cold chain. So today my session is covers 4 major things. One is I talk about the contrasting challenges what we have in food supply chain. So I'll try to share my slide. I hope you can see my slide. Yeah, so hope you can see my slide, right? Good.
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
Thank you. So typically I'm just going to, so this is a review paper we did a bit long ago with my student, a PhD student called Adarsh Kumar Singh, as well as we were like working on a project funded by Chinese government at the time, so which is bit prior to COVID. Couple of people are there from, like, one is Kulwant Power from Nottingham, and Professor Kulwant Power is from Nottingham. He's a senior professor there, and Professor Inkai from Nottingham campus, Ningbo. So we all did something to understand a bit about the food sector, food supply chain in particular. We wanted to find out what are the issues we have from the supply chain perspective, where people could help multiple stakeholders involving basically the beneficiaries would be the farmers, how they could benefit out of it. So without further ado, so it's a bit of like more informal. If you would like to step in, ask questions, please stop me at any point of time. I'm happy to take on your questions and clarify if something is not missing here. So typically what I am going to do is I will try to review the food supply chain context a bit. It's more from the academic perspective. Then I will try to take you on some of the like Indian cold chain status, where we are, and what is the role of Indian cold chain with respect to impact it has on farmers in particular, and what are the roles of different stakeholders, including government, the private, and other sectors. Then, in terms of, I know this the AICT's focus of this kind of like 2-week development course is for technology. So I try to touch a bit upon how to contextualize a blockchain for a meat supply chain. Again, this is mostly from Western world context. Then I will, because Dr. Ganesh asked me to introduce a new research topic where there is a paucity of theory. For example, in that case, we can use something called topic modeling. So I'll try to run through what is topic modeling, but because you guys can do it, and where this methodology is appropriate, how you can do this. A bit of like it's like a literature review, but whenever there is no theory and whenever there is no kind of like the topic is very nascent, so we wanted to know what is going on among the conversation about practitioners, academics, and other kind of like the policymakers, etc. So we can grab some of the conversation and see like what is their concern and how to address this. Right. So in terms of, so this is like typically a bit of old here in terms of review. So, but we covered almost like for 10 years what is happening in food supply chain. So when you review the studies, like what we found out is most of the people are talking right nowadays about food security, particularly like adulteration, also like making sure that it is available all time. It is not getting like we talk more about climate change, how it is going to affect food supply chain, especially water scarcity, storage facility. In particular, we know that all this kind of like short shelf life products, what we mean by short shelf life is like all the vegetables, all the perishable products, like which has like kind of like a weak lifetime, how to preserve it, how to extend its life, how to store and make sure that it reaches the proper kind of like meets the proper demand and the people. So also we know like from FAO, we call Food and Agriculture Organization, it's a global body which try to collect empirical data, but still, to be honest, like based on my experience in doing project in multiple countries, including Turkey, India, and other country like UK. So there is no typical micro level data. So right now they say there is 1/3 of food what we produce goes as waste. But there is no exact statistical data, so which is a very much in need. So FAO says that, guys, please work on collecting micro level data, create a database, create an empirical evidence where people can quantify, and also they can distribute well the waste to the needy people, especially people in Africa are starving. Some of the countries in Africa are starving, so where this could be used, because whatever we produce goes to space, which never makes sense. So large amount of food loss, and particularly for short life perishable products, there is substantial loss, 1/3 that I said. This is again aggregated data. We don't have a micro level empirical evidence. Also, there is a breadth of research on declining characteristics of long and short shelf life food products. So short shelf life is like typically we can hold the food like for like 2-3 days, but if you store it in a refrigerated condition, we can extend to 7 or 8 days or 10 days. So it's a way to extend the life a bit using cold storage facility. So typically, like what we are trying to, it is important to understand what are the unique characteristics for the food products and what kind of mitigating strategy people need to bring in to extend the life or life, and then to reduce the loss, food loss. So there are two things: food waste, food loss. Food loss is due to inefficiency in supply chain. Food waste is without consuming, it is get wasted at the table, or it is wasted at the customer at a table, or it could be wasted because of its losing its value or characteristics. So food waste is criminal, so we need to avoid that. Food loss is because of inefficiency in the system, like in the supply chain, end-to-end, farm to fork supply chain, there is inefficiency, it has to be reduced. So I'm going to cover both food loss and food waste in this review. So what we did is like pretty old, as I said, like my PhD student was doing this, Adarsh. So you looked at the timeline you took from almost 17 years, like from early 2000 till you wanted to know 2016, on both development of like emerging economy. So because a lot of people, a lot of emerging economies, for example, India signed into WTO. China took advantage earlier than India in signing agreements with WTO, where they got to know good practices. They started implementing a lot of cooperative as kind of like farming arrangements where they could reduce waste a bit. So we did an exhaustive search. So this is a bit of like systematic literature review. I'm trying to explain how we ended up with few articles, what is going to be a basis for us as a sample to find out some of the emerging research topics where you guys can also benefit out of it. So we did an exhaustive search with a conventional database covering for us, the key word is food supply chain. So we looked at Science Direct, Emerald, Taylor and Francis, J.S. Dewar, and other seminal papers also from Google Scholar. So we excluded some of the generic papers. What it means, it simply covers something on food supply chain without anything mentioned about the causes for losses. So we removed all those papers because it was huge. I will tell you the numbers later. So then we segmented the paper based on our interest, like basically like based on our expertise. Like we wanted to look upon what is happening in terms of inefficiency from operations management side to avoid food loss. From agricultural side, what they define food waste and how it could be mitigated, and as well as from the food supply chain point of view. A lot of agricultural economists were talking about from farm to fork, what needs to be done. So we took like 203 paper. I'll try to tell you how we ended up in 203. So typically we looked at the three major things. One for us, like you can see this Venn diagram, which says 10% of papers in the literature discussed about lack of infrastructure, pretty much. And 55% of paper discuss about information. So that is a huge thing which is contributing to losses and waste. And then the quality issues like preserving, kind of like having good kind of like monitoring the freshness of the product, a perishable product, for example, using sensors, the moisture content, humidity, etc., etc. So those things contributes to the quality of the product and freshness of the product what we are getting. So typically when we review the paper, like so if you look at covering infrastructure and information, only 2% of articles, like out of 203, only 2% of articles were discussing about the irrelevance of these two issues. Again, if you see all together, like quality information and infrastructure, only 1% of paper, like at least rarely 3 paper discussed all together. So rest of the papers only either covering mostly on information asymmetry between multiple stakeholders, farm to farm, including our major focus here is on the farmers, how they get impacted because of inefficiencies or because of information asymmetry, how this cold bullwhip effect, we call like cold bullwhip effect, how it impacts them. So whatever they make a mistake on the retail side, how it impacts the farmer. So how it has been magnified, how it has been amplified, how to reduce that. So that's what our concern here is. So what the procedure we adapted. So this is, you can find out from any standard seminal papers how to do systematic literature review. So normally we say Tranfield is a good paper, like to look into how to do a systematic literature review, including what should be the keyword, how to set inclusion criteria, how to set exclusion criteria, in order to justify the sample is a valid sample to carry out the research. So we followed those procedure. So those audience who are interested can look at the Tranfield paper, which appeared in British Journal of Management. Basically, this is systematic literature review. If you see the origin, it came from medical field, and then people started collecting evidences to standardize certain practices or to understand the symptoms for certain diseases, etc. So we followed the same procedure here. So the Tranfield paper gives you how to do a systematic literature review, and it's widely recognized, well accepted in the academic community in terms of systematic literature review. So what we did, to start with, we review all issues on food supply chain. We don't have, like, we didn't see anything with respect to information, infrastructure, quality, etc. So we looked blindly food supply chain, different databases. So as I said, like, we took 16-17 year time frame, where I think most of the countries, so for us the reference is India, engaging with WTO, etc. So they started to do it in 1991, but most of the people, like in 2000, it became mostly like supply chain came into existence. A lot of IT systems supported people to connect with the multiple stakeholders, etc. So when we did this with the initial food supply chain, we got 577 papers from journal articles. I mean, from different databases. So how to exclude? We don't want to look into all the 577 because we were interested in only long shelf life and short shelf life. Long shelf life product meaning is mostly staple food like rice, wheat, etc. How to store it, how to use it. So that's what we mean by long shelf life. Like it could be chilies, it could be pepper, it could be other commodity, whatever it is. Short shelf life is mostly on a kind of like perishable vegetables. It could be meat or it could be fish, etc. So we looked specifically whether whatever we collected from the 577, whether it refers to long shelf life or short shelf life. Then when we looked into these two things from the abstract and the content of the paper, we can eliminate few other papers, and then we ended up having 350 papers. So which has both, so certain papers had both long life and short life, shelf life characters, discusses about both long life and short shelf life products. Then we also looked at, then we ended up in looking at the specific issues in terms of unique non-obvious features like infrastructure, information, quality, whether within long and short shelf life. We wanted to know how many papers discuss about infrastructure, information, and quality. And then we finally ended up, we again discarded something around 147 papers. Then we ended up having 203 papers as a sample for us to analyze and see what are the concerns and what are the questions they discuss and what is still open for researchers like us to move forward, to carry out further research on those topics. A bit of gap analysis, I would say. So in terms of descriptive statistics about the sample, what we had, like we reviewed 73 journals which shown interest on wide audience across diverse background. Primarily, we covered the studies mostly the studies appeared in British Food Journal and Food Control because of its scope and relevance and the nature of audience they do have. So British Food Journal and Food Control had 30 and 18 papers respectively. So they are the main journals which publishes papers related to agricultural supply chain, food supply chain, long life, short life, with several issues reported there. In terms of operations management community, it's a multidisciplinary research appears in IJPU, International Journal of Production Economics and Production Research. We had like 14 papers from Production Economics, International Journal of Production Economics. It's a well-recognized journal. It's in the ABDC. So ABDC. So list which is a well-ranked, both journals IJPR and IJPU. So they have 14 and 12 papers discusses about food issues like both long life and short shelf life and long shelf life. So what we have seen until 2016, like there was an increasing pattern. Now, if you see 2022, it's amazing. Like 2023 until 2022, if you want to see the number of paper published because of this global call for researchers to look upon the impact of climate changes on agricultural food supply chain. So there are a number of awareness going on around the world. So where researchers started to work mostly on extending the security, like enhancing the security of food supply chain, reducing food loss, reducing food waste, how technology could help them to reduce adulteration, to improvise authenticity of the food what we consume. So again, this is nothing but to show you kind of like, so every year more than 30, or nowadays if you see, you can see 50 papers have been published in with respect to food in a year. So typically 1 month will get something around 5 to 6 papers. So that is amazing. So what we did is like what we wanted to see, where is the problem? So we looked, so from as operations management researchers, like or a supply chain management researchers, so we need some references for how to analyze these papers. So we took in terms of functions in supply chain as specified by supply chain operations reference model. I think most of you might have heard about this SCORE model, which is well recognized. It's a management tool to understand the process, like from end to end, from farm to fork, upstream, downstream. So various processes in a businesses. Like normally this has been proposed for commercial activities, like mostly like for manufacturing, mass production kind of activity. But nowadays we can also use pretty much this one for agricultural food supply chain, where there is a heavy use of machineries, technology. There's a lot of practices has been standardized other than the external variables like climate issues, rain, weather, and all those things, which nowadays people can predict also, then accordingly protect the crops to the needed situation. So for example, in China, if you see like strawberries, they do protect very well. In different seasons, they produce the same yield, which is amazing. So what we did is we applied a SCORE model. We looked at procurement, what is happening in terms of seeds or in terms of like raw material for farmers, how they produce and then how they distribute within the supply chain, and what impact finally it had on them. Are they happy? Whether they are get the value, the worth of effort what they put in, and how it impacts them. Okay, so distribution, we talk more about cold chain, especially for perishable products. So normally SCORE is very well used in multiple studies. So we thought like SCOR refers to how we make, move, and deliver. So buy, make, move, and deliver processes. Like typically it covers all the activities with respect to end-to-end supply chain. So what we did is we'll use the SCOR model, which says source, make, move, sell. We looked at some of the long and short food supply chain. So we wanted to find out what are the convergent issues, meaning like which has been sorted out very well, and then people are repeatedly talking about that certain issues. And we wanted to also know what are divergent issues, which is new over time, which is popping up after a decade kind of thing. So we wanted to know that. So typically our focus was to, as I said earlier, the literature is very broad. So we wanted to look only on infrastructure, whether they talk about any convergent issues with respect to convergent is, like people narrow down to one typical element. They say scarcity of water, or there is lack of infrastructure, or there is no typical cold chain, or there is no kind of like protection, there is no kind of financial support from the regulators. So all those things we say convergent issues. So we looked at infrastructure from the perspective from infrastructure, information, and quality. I'll tell you what are the things we found out from these three aspects with respect to procurement, production, distribution, retail. How are we doing? Am I good? You guys are okay or with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
So otherwise, I should not talk to the screen. Yeah. So thank you. So convergent issues addresses that are common to both long-term and short-term food supply chain. Divergent focuses only on issues affecting the two supply chain in different manners. So as I said, like I gave example, convergent, which is common to both as people talk more about funding, talk more about infrastructure, lack of infrastructure support, lack of government participation, lack of cooperation. All those things are we call convergent issues. Divergent is with respect to each category of food supply chain what we have. So how we say non-obvious, because the authors would claim in their paper, because we didn't do any empirical analysis, we didn't collect data, so we can't authentically say that this is non-obvious. But whatever authors claim in the paper as non-obvious, we will try to go by their kind of like claims, and then we try to develop a framework from their claims. So in terms of infrastructure, we looked at on the four aspects like sorry, can you hear me? I don't know, something went wrong. Yeah.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
we
sir,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Okay, fine. So in terms of like hello?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
We can hear
Okay,
you.
fine. No, sorry, I moved the tab, so probably I thought there will be something problem with the mute. Yeah, fine. So in terms of seasonal production, so they say in terms of long shelf life, local sourcing, like, so they say local sourcing is a divergent issue. So what we get with respect to, so convergent issue is seasonal production. It affects, seasonality affects both long shelf life as well as short shelf life. Whereas in terms of divergent, for a long shelf life, they are more focusing on local sourcing. Whereas short shelf life, because of the perishability. So for example, in the early days, only we get mangoes only in the summer, but nowadays we get mangoes throughout this whole season because of the technology, because of the improvement in practice, indoor farming and things like that. So now they are doing global sourcing. For example, in the UK, we get mango all season, irrespective of summer. Okay, so global sourcing, because of short-term storage needs, they go for global sourcing. So people talk more about global sourcing in a short-term, short life short shelf life food supply chains. Especially if you take coconut, it comes from Thailand, it comes from Africa, it comes from India, so pretty much Sri Lanka, etc. In terms of like production, for example, farming, so we mean production here is farming, we can't find out any kind of common issues reported in the literature. Mostly they talk about how they, if it is a wheat, rice, etc., milling, crushing, those things they discuss a lot in the literature. So there are some inefficiency there. In terms of short shelf life, it's mostly setup cost and changeover cost. Like for example, so they do a lot of rice in a season, then they go towards like groundnuts kind of thing whenever it is summer. So it's whenever you change one crop to another crop, the setup cost is very high, and they need some kind of support when to change, how to change, and how to have multiple crops, things like that. So then production problem is being reported, large number of recipes from few input, like, so they want to do a multi-cropping, so which is a open research question there. In terms of moving distribution, no similarity between long-term and short life. So basically our aim is to find out some of the best practices or some of the ongoing concerns in two categories. So empty container repositioning, for example, for a long-term commodity, when they ship from point A to point B, there is a empty haul. So load unit mismatch between inbound and outbound for ocean transit, especially from port. Like, so there are like a lot of empty movement of containers, which is an inefficiency, directly not affects the food loss or waste, but overall from the perspective of the environment, it is there needs to be an aggregator to match demand and supply on both ends, from point of distribution to point of consumption, from point of consumption to point of distribution. So temperature monitoring during plugging and unplugging of reefer power units. So temperature monitoring, like people think that, okay, they want to save energy. There may be like blackouts, power shortage in certain country. Then people will try to switch off the reefer. For example, there are a lot of cold warehouses where they have to maintain optimal temperature. If not, all goes waste. For example, it could be a sea-based seafoods, or it could be vegetable, or it could be a vaccine, etc. In terms of selling, they say for a long shelf life, it's more high storage utilization. For a short shelf life, they say low storage utilization. So again, utilization is like, for example, the time period the product is being spared in a facility. And also if you take a warehouse, they have both like nowadays they have, like, for example, Swire. If you take, for example, they have a warehouse which they have both cold storage facility as well as for long shelf life, for storing long shelf life, like products they do have, because they don't want to go entirely only for cold storage. So this is in terms of infrastructure, what academics reported in the journal article. So that's what I'm trying to summarize here. In terms of information, what we found out is information is contracts, like a common thing, whether it is long shelf life or a short shelf life. Loose contracts, like meaning like there is contracts varies from country to country. Again, between the buyer to supplier to supplier, between contract between buyer and supplier, there is no kind of like loose here. Meaning is what if there is a deviation, if there is a kind of like non-adherence of a certain party is not agreeing, or certain whatever agreed has not been done, of the penalty and what would be the consequence, all those things have not been mentioned well. There was mostly loose contracts are there, so people take advantage of that in terms of legality. And then in terms of long shelf life, in terms of information, we didn't find any dominating issues. Whereas with respect to short shelf life, we found out we don't have any traceable system to capture information. So that's where we talk more about blockchain now. And also the holding cost, like it's a function, it's a function of stock size, perishability, and value. So how we are going to stock it? So what would be the optimal level, which is people doesn't know. They simply play with the experience and their own knowledge. And then most people like abuse temperatures, like as I said, like when they don't bother when they shift or load, unload, they never bother about temperature and while making or also moving. So uneven temperature distribution is a common problem. So in terms of moving and selling, in terms of selling, tracing information, like again, blockchain plays a good role here. Tracing information frequency is very, very low in a long shelf life. Whereas in a short shelf life food supply chain, tracing information frequency, now they are able to trace, but they can't monitor the humidity or the freshness of the vegetable or the product what they are shipping. And there is no like how they are agreeing to the compliance or how they are managing to go with the compliance is not very clear in the short shelf life supply chain. So this is all with respect to information shared between multiple parties, stakeholders in the end-to-end supply chain. The third aspect we talked more about is quality. Because of this also there are a lot of waste and loss. So in terms of procurement, mostly heterogeneous quality, like they are buying from different suppliers, different farmers. They have different kind of perception in terms of measuring quality, so which is not very clear. That has been reported, which is convergent issue for both long shelf life as well as short shelf life. Economic motivated adulteration has been issued. For example, you can see mostly in the long staple products, like adulteration is quite common in India. It could be tea, or it could be coffee, or it could be rice, mixing stones and things like that. So, which has been reported in the academic article. Same thing applies with the perishable product like waxing apples and the kiwis, putting a stickers on kiwi where local grown kiwis, they've been named as labeled as New Zealand kiwis and things like that. So which is a big issue right now. So adulteration is because of profit they do this. So we call economic motivated adulteration. In terms of selling, contamination is a common problem reported with both long shelf life and short shelf life. So in terms of long shelf life, low impact by external environment, again, so long shelf life, that is no problem in terms of influence of weather. Whereas humidity and temperature has a substantial impact on short shelf life food supply chain. In terms of selling, retail side, storage loss. So when they store, which has been mentioned as a common problem for both long shelf life as well as short shelf life food products. Especially with respect to long shelf life, insects, rodents, moisture has been reported as a causes of concern. Whereas in a short shelf life, it is mostly like respiration, transpiration is more air circulation, and so bacteria, in fact, like germination, etc., has been reported because of the cleanliness of the place. So this is all with respect to quality, which short shelf life. So what we come to know from this review, so what is causing waste? So it could be loss or waste. So inefficiencies we have reported, and so mostly it is microbial spoilage, disposable products with remaining shelf life, like careful they are not checking the expiry dates. They are not proactive in terms of if there are 2 days, for example, in the supermarket, if there is a 1 day or 2 days for expiry, they will try to do it at a markup price. So which they don't do, I think, in most of the countries. Basically, poor logistics infrastructure is a very obvious problem, which has been reported in the literature. Inadequate cold storage facilities. Especially the role by the government has been reported, especially from the context of India. and inefficient packaging design. So this is a problem right now. Lot of plastics has been used, and people are thinking, like especially manufacturers are thinking how to reduce usage of plastic, and then how to. So people started using plastics earlier for packaging, in the sense to handle it well without any damage to the perishable or the long shelf life product. But over time now there is a bit of concern on usage of that. Plus also during COVID, people were afraid of touching the packaging. So here I think they did a lot of research in terms of labeling the packaging without touching, how to sense and then deliver to the appropriate. So they reduced the minimum the touch points of the product using RFID, eco-labeling RFID, which is again recyclable. Lack of integrated information technology system. This where we come across nowadays. There is a lot of hype in use of a blockchain, but still not very well used because of various issues which is being addressed right now in terms of latency, in terms of cost and other things. Also in poor training in handling and stacking of people who are engaging in those kind of, it could be warehouse pickers, or it could be a farmer side, it could be on the retail side. And variation in storage environment and delivery time to customers, which is mostly with respect to short shelf life, moisture, kind of temperature variation, which affects the product substantially. And they need to have a proper setup at the retail side also, in order to satisfy the customer's expectation in terms of quality. Again, delivery time, I don't know, like now we talk last mile, there is a big improvement in terms of use of companies like Zomato. I don't know how they preserve temperature there. But here, for example, just eat, they do have a delivery, but they have a very good sophisticated temperature delivery truck to deliver to customer, so that they make sure that there is no variation in storage temperatures. So if you take like where we wanted to go, so if you talk about these are the causes of the the cost of the food waste, it could be long shelf life or short shelf life. How to mitigate? So we need to avoid. So that is a best practice according to waste management hierarchy. So we wanted to avoid wastages. So if we wanted to avoid waste, so we have to. So for this, more training, more kind of awareness has to be spread across multiple stakeholders. I don't know to what extent in India it's pretty much they're evolving, so it's a long way for them to go. But reduction of waste for technology could support in terms of reducing waste, recycling, etc. So mostly like energy recovery, recycling. So for example, biogas, they produce with the waste, they produce biogas, and they convert one into another. But again, there will be a loss in terms of regeneration. So if you could avoid, that's the best practices. But if not, use it like for energy production and things like that. So otherwise, treat and dispose properly as a feed to animal, or it could be to land as a fertilizer. So it has to be dealt with properly. So what we come to know, so that we need to. So for example, we need to have in an ideal world, in a hypothetical world, we need to have a coordinated cold chain. So what we can see, so what we come up with this study, basically people think about how to maximize sales, minimize transportation costs, minimize waste costs, minimize inventory costs. So how to do that? So people are, anyway, bottom line is economic. We need to make money. So everybody, like farmer need to get their share of money for share of effort, what they put. Like again, distributor need to get their share of effort. We all know that the percentage what distributor or retailer gets, the farmer don't get. So that is a pain point in this supply chain. So how to get, we need more sales, we need a minimal transportation cost, we need minimal waste costs, we need a minimal inventory cost. So how to do that? We need to have a coordinated supply chain. So only information has been reported as a problem here. information in terms of like moving, making, information coordination. Information is vital for coordination. So how to share information, how to use blockchain effectively so that people can reduce substantial waste or loss in the food supply chain from farm. So we say like retailer side, like demand for product with varied iteration level, and then in terms of distributor capacity needed for storing products with varied iteration level, and in terms of supplier, farmers here, input yield, seasonality, there should be a system for them to understand, like AI based system to understand the weather and to decide how to go for a multi crops and things like that. So those kind of support is needed for the farmers, whereas for the distributors, they need a storage facility for both long shelf life and short shelf life, like especially cold chain. And end of sale, like for retailers, again, there should be more awareness to take care of the deterioration level and to maintain the freshness, or to dispose earlier. Proactively, they need to dispose with a markdown price. So if you can do these things, then we can achieve all these objectives. Even though it is a conflicting, there are tensions surrounding here, but still it could be achieved with a coordinated cold chain. I have seen in China personally, like they do this effectively. Like they do have a coordinated supply chain. They do a cooperative farming. They have a very good interconnected information system where people can effectively share information. So this is what we propose, and this is more ideal in a case from what we have seen from the literature. We could say that if there is a coordinated cold chain involving multiple stakeholders with proper information sharing, most of the problems could be avoided. In terms of most of the problem which causes waste could be avoided. So if you see, like only people are reporting lesser on quality and infrastructure than information. So information is a key, but people talk more about blockchain, but it has not gone to the lower formal level. So which is a concern right now. So any kind of like questions you have at this moment before I move on to the Indian context? Great. So
No, sir.
okay, if there are no questions, I'll move to, so what is happening in India, especially Indian cold chain? Because
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Sorry
please.
for the interruption. There is in chat box this one question.
Good. Okay. What about quality? Okay, quality. Yeah, quality is mostly through awareness he has to create. So, so in the Western country, they do a lot of trainings to avoid wastages. For example, if you see the quality issues reported here, mostly in exogenous factors, they do have technology to sense temperature, to track the movement of goods. They do have like a lot of thermal sensors now to measure temperatures, and also based on the temperature, they are able to predict other aspects in terms of the characteristics of the food product in terms of short shelf life food supply chain. External factors, they measure pretty much well to maintain quality, but most of the issues come only through the people who are engaging in those activities. So there needs to be mostly the perception varies among the stakeholders. Also, economic adulteration, which is quite common, cutting corners to make profit. So in terms of adulteration, so there needs to be a lot of regulatory policies, monitoring, as well as training needed. I hope I answered your question. Right. So in terms of India, like I didn't pick up on information system here because information is dominating, but I just pick up on the infrastructure, which is cold chain. So if you take Indian cold, it's interesting, like it's a huge country. Agriculture is a primary driven kind of economy. It's an agriculture driven economy where it's a primary sector for employment. It contributes substantially to GDP. But unfortunately, the cold storage capacity, what we have right now is, in total in India, we have 7,645 cold storages, 95% owned by private companies. So 2-3 are cooperative in few states, like for example, Haryana, they do have, in Tamil Nadu, they do have few cooperative cold storage, but not well maintained. So that's a problem. So it could handle, the capacity is 37 to 39 million tons. Either it could be for perishable products. So mostly why they use cold chain is for storing potatoes. So 68% of cold storage facilities used to store potatoes. So 32% they use for multi-commodity storage. Especially, I think it is not only big farmers or a big kind of like cooperatives can use these facilities, whereas the real farmers can't do it. And also in India, other infrastructure is like lack of ripening chambers. Like artificially, they ripen a lot of food products. So there is a lack of ripening chambers. Refrigerator, reefer they call refrigerator transport, and rural pack houses. So there are like so not able to distribute the packing with respect to the context. Hopefully, I think it will improve. So this is recent kind of empirical evidence one of our students gathered from the Indian context, especially from the Telangana, Andhra Pradesh context. So what we see, like this is painful statistics. What we got to know, approximately 10,281 people committed suicide in 2019, mostly farmers. Around 6,000 farmers died because of loan, because of financial issues, and other things are like more agricultural labor. So those people who are working, even though they do have 100-day employment scheme, I don't know, they have a good name for it, but at least people are not engaged in agricultural activities. So at least government should come up and do something on it. Otherwise, like, we are losing people, which is a big loss. So what we thought is, like, we did some multiple interviews, like 22 interviews, to understand what is happening in the perishable food supply chain, especially from the Indian context. So this is like a respondent profile, mostly like we looked at, so because of the students kind of like origin, so she looked at Andhra and Telangana, and she interacted with multiple people, including government officials, cold chain facilitators, street vendors, and farmers. So this looks like how to look from this core model. She wanted to see like what is happening in the procurement, what is happening in the distribution, what is happening in the selling, retail, how the government is playing a role in terms of facilitating this. So typically what crops people are dealing with here is mostly tomatoes. It's not potato here, so that's a good thing. So banana, onion, cauliflower, green chilies, turmeric, tamarind, red chilies. So these are the major crops in Andhra and Telangana. And these needs, like for example, perishable products needs kind of like storage facilities. Also other product like red chili and onion needs storage, even though it's not a cold chain, but they need a storage facilities in terms of capacity. So these people, we ask them what is the problem, what is causing waste here, what they need to have in terms of, we listed out all the issues what we identified from the literature. What we found out, like farmers, why there was like substantial death rate of a farmer, like we are losing around 10,000 people every year. So that is huge. So how to avoid that? So from the government side, people were trying to say that there are lack of cold chain infrastructure where government could step in and do something. There's no recognition from the government side till now because of commercial activity being engaged by the private companies. In terms of cold chain facilitators, they are very less number, where we are losing many products, either as a kind of like waste, they're throwing it away. They're not even recycling, using as a fertilizer or feeding to animals. Less reach of available ones to farmers. So again, if there is a cold chain, it is not reachable for the small farmers who are not in the cooperative union setup. From the farmer's perspective, so what we found out, like so they are ignoring the post-harvest techniques. Mostly like they don't know how to preserve, how to most information missing from them, plus facility information with respect to use of access of facilities missing. And negligence in transport and packaging is a big negligence from the farmer's point of view for the causes of waste. From the vendor, customers and street vendors, what we found out is buying good, they wait and they try to intimidate a bit because of their power, money they do have. So they try to buy goods at lower price from farmers, which they try to twist their arms a bit to get things done. So which is because of the power difference between retailers and the farmer, and over prioritizing high quality goods. So kind of like they look for shapes, colors, patches in a, so they try to price based on the quality, which is nothing to do with the food characteristics. So these are some of the cons we know all, but as a research community, as an academic community, from our own techniques, what we have been using in automotive line, or whatever we have learned from Ford techniques, like when operation management came. So how we can address this agricultural inefficiencies, as well as how to mitigate proactively some of the costs of waste. So that is a key thing. So also we thought, okay, this is with respect to India. So what is happening with a specific perishable product in the developed economy? For example, if you take UK, we wanted to know what is happening in the meat supply chain. It could be like a animal kind of from slaughterhouse to how it end up in. So we wanted to compare and contrast and see what India could learn from this. So in terms of like per capita consumption in terms of meat is increasing, luckily, because like vegan is also getting popular in the Western world, but there is a 5% increase in per capita consumption until 2020. So also it is predicted beyond 2020, this is statistics before COVID, there will be increase in 14% of meat consumption in the developed economy and 18% in developing economy. So especially meat export from India, again, like it could be beef, or it could be lamb, or it could be other. So for example, chicken they can't export because of chlorination, what they do in India and the US. So Europe has a different norms here. So typically, like there is a growth in consumption of meat. Also, there is challenges, like for example, increasing cost. You have seen like inflation because of various external factors right now. There is a challenge how to develop. This is not only India. What I have talked earlier about India, in Western economy also there is like a challenge in terms of developing collaboration and cooperation. If there is a proper collaboration and cooperation, substantial food loss could be reduced. There should be an incentive structure in place to engage, for example, multiple stakeholders to avoid waste and loss. For example, I think in UK they did a very good strategy recently to avoid blackout, because you all know this, because of Russian invasion in Ukraine, there is a shortage of gas in the European country. So typically gas is a lifeline for all the houses to keep warm during winters. So there was no there was a limited availability of gas. So during peak times, what government did is they incentivized all the customers not to use electricity or minimally use electricity to shut off whatever they don't need. So they incentivized, they gave £10 per home who are not using we are using lesser energy at the peak periods, like for 2 hours in a day, for typical 2 hours where there will be a huge consumption of electricity, that is from 4 to 6 in the evening. So they said if you could reduce the usage, then you will be given incentive. So that kind of incentivization is needed in the agriculture supply chain to engage multiple stakeholders to reduce overall the food waste and loss. So technology has a substantial role to play in this one. So what are the waste? So again, if we take a meat supply chain, it could be the processing waste at the processing, it could be bones, trimming, and other bits. There is a lot of waste because they don't follow a standardized process. And again, it is not like a regular product. The meat product varies. It depends on the animal, it depends on the other characteristics. And also like below appearance standard, it causes a lot of waste, discoloration by knocks on animals, or they call carcasses. So which is a problem, which is not a disease or something like that. Because of the appearance, they throw it away. So animal loss before slaughter, and damage to meat product during transportation, basically due to temperature control. This is not in India, in the UK. So meat can travel long distance along the supply chain if it is properly maintained. I think there are. Oh, you need a break. Okay, so we can have a break for 5 minutes. I think I have 20 minutes to go, but yeah, you can have a break for 5 minutes, please. Yes, please. I'll stop here.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Dr. Chandrakant, yes, please. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Sir, now it's okay, sir. It's hearing.
Okay. So should I continue or we'll have a break?
Network problem, I think.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Then I think okay. Then I'll continue if it's so. Okay. Because I thought you said break, please, break, please. So that's what I got to know the message.
So please
So let us
continue the
continue,
session,
sir.
sir.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, sorry for the poor understanding. Right. In terms of firm level, we tried to find out what are the causes for waste in the case of a perishable meat supply chain. It could be lamb, or it could be chicken, etc., fish, or whatever it is. Also, like we looked at the supply chain level, what are the waste? Like the beginning of supply chain, it is at the procurement side. What is happening with respect to water and energy usage? Lack of monitoring is a cause, and animal loss before slaughter is poor health. So there is no, like, even though they use RFIDs to track the movement of animal, for example, it could be lamb or it could be fish, salmon. Fish, I'm referring to salmon here. So they do not Nordic countries, they do pretty much salmon farming. So they try to track the growth of the animal, the feed, what they are trying to do, the growth rate, etc. So I think information is substantially helping, but still a lot to do in this area. In the middle of supply chain, mostly like distribution, processing, so they say void of data at the processor and slaughterhouse. So there is no communication between processing and slaughterhouse. In terms of end of supply chain, shelf life waste. So again, data loss, data are in silos, it's not shared between the stakeholders. Again, there is no data from slaughterhouse where they slaughter, because here, like not in India, like here they have to slaughter in a slaughterhouse and then it has to be distributed to retailers. So they can't slaughter everywhere they like. So there is a regulation here. So, but yeah, I think there is no sharing of data from the point where they slaughter to the shelf life to retailers. And the waste is caused by poor inventory management. So again, data is a problem here. How to retrieve data from farm, slaughterhouse, and distributor is a problem. So if you talk about coordination, this is what the case in the UK right now. So how to mitigate? So blockchain could be used. Again, I'm not going into the micro level, how to customize blockchain, write a code in order to capture, tokenize, or what are the things we need to do at process level in terms of activity, how to capture activity with respect to people involved. I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying how to customize blockchain in order to avoid as a technology to. So this is a study we did here to reduce waste. So, for example, for a meat product which are below appearance standard, we could have an end-to-end blockchain system. Again, this is hypothetical. People are piloting here, but nothing is in use right now. People right now pretty much use only RFID, even though if it's a small farmhouse, they use RFID to track and trace, and then they have a barcode reader or RFID reader to read. They use like tags or a RFID. Okay. So, but in future they say like if they have a blockchain system where people, like for example, there was a horse meat scandal a few years ago in a Tesco, which is a big retailer in the UK, where instead of a beef they sold like horse meat, which caused a problem because of a supplier to the big retailer. So that incident caused a huge kind of reputational damage to the retailer. So they're very concerned how to track the source, authenticity of the food, what they're eating, and things like that. So blockchain could help pretty much to monitor temperature. All the discolored, like kind of like appearance standards could be eradicated if the use of technology here. Also, animal loss before slaughter. If the farmer is not sure what caused the loss, they could refer to the blockchain data logs in terms of movement of the animal from place to place. Like it could be where it moved, what it feeding data. If they could enter and they connect that farm data with the retailer and slaughterhouse, that would be very, very helpful to avoid losses in terms of diseases, in terms of infection, etc. But again, few big farms are doing trials here. In terms of damage to meat product during transportation, so if this technology, again, it has to be linked to the temperature sensors with the blockchain, where they can identify the meat quality of a particular product, and then they can tarnish, or they can sell it, or they can act accordingly and don't want to ship unnecessarily, or they could make it as a fertilizer, or they could use it as a biomass kind of conversion for energy extraction. At supply chain level, for example, how technology blockchain could do is blockchain could streamline the process, especially in terms of energy consumption, water and energy consumption. They can use pretty much blockchain. In terms of to avoid animal loss, they can connect the RFID tags with the blockchain to track and trace the movement of animal. For example, lambs, they have big farmers, they used to grow in a huge quantity, like in terms of hundreds, and so where they can keep track of their movement, their behavior, their feeding, their eating nature, etc. Also, they could keep track of vaccination, medical records, other things. So, which would be helpful to reduce the loss of animal before slaughter. In terms of like shipping, in terms of inventory management, so whenever they cut the meat, package, They need more kind of accurate information to be shipped to the retailer. They know when it has been cut, what would be the shelf life, when it has to be disposed, or when it has to be marked down and sold. All those information needs to be known to the retailers, which is not the case right now. Shelf life based like a timestamp, processing timestamp in slaughterhouse will allow for more accurate delivery times to retailers and hence better shelf life products. So again, information from farmer and slaughterhouse would help retailer to reduce waste. So again, collapsing the data in it's available real-time access to data to the retailers would enable them to manage inventory properly. They don't want to overstock in the retail outlet, which is causing a substantial waste. So blockchain could do all these things. So that's what people are trialing, but nothing is in use right now on real time. So end-to-end waste could be reduced by technology, especially by blockchain. Again, this is like a macro level study to understand from the meat supply chain how it could avoid waste or loss before slaughtering, after slaughtering, how to reduce waste, how to make sure that whatever it has been in the system has been properly used. So again, from the technology point of view, what are the concerns we have here from the technology from blockchain? So there is an issue with collecting sourcing data. Data duplication is there from blockchain point of view. Again, the cost implication is substantial for small farmers. Mostly they say additional data capture. Most of the people, stakeholders see it as a burden, especially the food producers. They everything is linked with cost and then the benefit, what the profit they get. So they do have a small scale ERP system, which is not like a SAP kind of small scale ERP system has been built in. Again, they have different interoperability of data as a big issue right now, which is they need in the future. They need something like more interoperable system where the existing ERP system data could be fetched by the blockchain data, where they can report the authenticity to the multiple stakeholders in the remote place. So there is a lot to be done, and especially technical point of view in terms of connecting data, retrieving data, managing the timestamp and the activities. All those things are open research areas, and people are doing a lot of stuff here, which is not well done right now. So these are some of the concerns from the blockchain point of view. So what I have explained earlier is from the meat supply chain point of view and the blockchain. So there is still a lot needs to be done to align exactly this technology to reduce the meat waste in the meat supply chain. So there are a lot of pilot trials going on right now at different countries, especially in China, in terms of like in the US, etc. They are able to reduce food spoilage is around 250 billion problem right now globally. 25% of our water goes to this spoiled. Already we have scarcity of water, but 25% of water goes to this spoiled food. So top 50 food supplies make up less than 20% of all sales. So there is a huge waste. So typically they need to think about how to control temperature, bacteria, and especially if you take meat and perishable like fish supply chain discolored or mishappen, how to avoid this. That is a key to reduce food loss and waste. So I don't know whether I have time to cover a topic modeling. Just I'll give a sharpness. So this is about meat supply chain to reduce food waste. So I think I have dumped too many things, but the key concern is technology, information could pretty much help to reduce coordination, and information could pretty much reduce waste and inefficiency in the system. Like finally, I'm not going to take much of your time. Topic modeling is a technique, research technique, which is used whenever the topic is new. For example, if you take blockchain, there are not many studies. So if you want to find out the nascent research, open questions within this thing, what to do. So mostly people discuss about this in the newspaper article, or they will discuss these kind of new arrivals, new technologies in the magazines, or it could be reported as a kind of like a media conversation. So from this we wanted to sense there is no academic literature. So earlier I talked about systematic literature review, where there is like for a matured field or matured kind of area. For example, food supply chain is a matured area where people will analyze and report a lot of concerns, causes, challenges, issues. Whereas if you take, for example, these kind of nascent topics, for example, blockchain, or if you talk about resilient manufacturing practices, it could be climate change factors, recent climate change, which is quite novel. So in that case, we can use this technique called topic modeling. So we did this not for a food supply chain, for other topic during COVID. We wanted to find out what would be the impact on the logistics sector. So we used this technique because we don't know, because there was no exact immediate kind of literature available, because COVID happens once in a century, like 19, okay. So 1 century ago, 1920s, 1919, there was like Spanish flu. After that, 100 years, we got this COVID. So which was a deadly disease. Like, well, we have seen across like the casualty of this. So there is no literature. We wanted to know whether logistics sector could survive, what are the implications it is going to have, what are the supply chain challenges it is going to evolve. So we use this technique to understand what are the emerging research themes after COVID, post-COVID-19. So it's a bit of mathematical technique. I'm not going to touch upon the mathematics behind the modeling. So there is like a software, Python programming, which is pretty much easy to do. So we use a typical LDA technique, which is pretty much easily, software is there. We can only give the input of the top the codes. It will generate the various topics. So again, this is background of what is happening in the topic modeling. So it talks about number of topics, number of words, number of documents we are going to analyze, the distribution of topics per document. It will check the distribution of topics and how it has been distributed of words within the topic, for topic distribution per document, word distribution. All this will be done by the software or the technique. So you don't want to do, but you need to know what is going on behind this. So what we do for what all we need is kind of a keyword, search strings we need to have. Like for example, we used COVID-19, post-COVID, COVID, post-corona, corona, coronavirus, supply chain logistics, cargo, disruption. So these are the keywords we used. So we collected documents, not only academic, because it's a new area. So we want to collect data from internet sources, consulting reports, they call white papers, gray papers, green papers. So, and also a few scientific articles have been published at the time about COVID. So we collected all those documents, and then we looked at these keywords, and then we set a time period, and then we started collecting the document. Then we check for the duplication. Then we check for this. Everything will be done by this software. So the time frame we used is from January. The COVID started only in it became very popular in January 2020, kind of February, March. So we took from January till August 2020, we collected, and we looked at internet sources, meaning newspapers, social media, data, survey, what people are discussing, what they're reporting, LinkedIn, etc. And then consulting report, and then we looked at also academic articles as a source. So this is what we did in step one. So nothing but it's not a systematic literature review. Collect everything available online and put it into this program. How do you select the document? Finally we ended up in 292 relevant document from various internet sources, 24 from consulting reports and 15 from academic papers. So we look for duplication. Software will look for duplication. It will tell us to remove. And also it will run through, it's automated programming, like it's like AI kind of tool, where it looked for the total words within topic, number of documents. It will look for all these things. Then what we did in step 3 is, this is Python based, as I said earlier. We call topic LDA is the technique. LDA mallet is one technique which is easy to use. You don't want to know programming much. Is to analyze the text document. We train the data set. We train with the words. So we did 100 iterations. Some words are combined or totally executed from analysis if they are no meaning for this research. So for example, we combine words like whatever words we had earlier, like Corona or COVID-19, we combine few words, supply chain disruption, etc. And then we rerun, and then see, once it has been done, it will stop. So it went to 100 iterations. So from this, we found out 9 topics were selected from the document. So what are these things? Like, it is related to pandemic-related urgent challenges in cargo transportation, and the priority areas, like what are the significant areas people need to look into future. So from this, we analyzed the topic and found out 6 challenging areas. Mostly it is in operational inefficiency, delivery performance, safety issues, supply chain vulnerability, shortage of manpower, digital gap. And then the priority areas, what in future, what we got to know from the discussion from the people's like mind, it's mostly sustainability, resilience, digitalization, collaboration, end-to-end visibility. Again, they talk more about technology, digitalization, visibility. So typically, like we went and analyzed what they talk about in operational inefficiency. So these are the 6 topic. It came as a challenging areas, and then the top priority areas. What we identified is I'm not going into, because it is more about logistics. I'm not going into like what are the operational inefficiency, what are delivery performance, safety, vulnerability. With respect to people safety, hygienic aspects has been reported. Digital technology, mostly about how scanning, automated scanning, things have been reported in that. So we analyzed, and then we identified mostly like 20 words were identified in terms of challenges. We did 2 things. One is with respect to challenges, one is with respect to priority. So from the discussion, we grabbed these two areas, two things. So in terms of challenges, like what we found out is mostly it is about sustainability, digitalization, collaboration, which comes post-COVID. This has to be concentrated. So we also did some interviews with the managers to find out what is happening in different countries, including Europe and Asia. Then we concluded that we related the whatever topic which came. Again, this also comes through LDA mallet. It links what needs to be done in order to address various priority areas. It could be sustainability, resilience, what needs to be done. So how each challenges is contributing. If we address those challenges, how we can enhance sustainability in future. So those kind of, I'm not going in detail here because of interest of time, but I'm happy to, this is again a detailed talk which has to be given, but I compressed here a bit to give you an awareness, to facilitate and to make you aware that there is a technique called topic modeling for a new nascent topic where there is no enough literature, there is no theory, or people need, is a bit of explorative thing. From conversation, you can build and you can find a relationship between the causes and what is concerning the causes and what is the effect. So you can easily build this cause and effect analysis using this topic modeling. So with this, I'll stop. I don't want to take much of your time. I'm happy to take on questions. So anyway, we need to have questions. I'm talking for long now. I'm happy to take on questions. We have another, I think, 8 minutes.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir. So, yeah, you were discussing about cold chain and also energy efficiency and also about food safety and security. So when we implement cold chain, definitely there would be energy requirement, obviously. So energy efficiency on the other side, increasing shelf-life period by using cold chain, both are conflicting in nature.
Correct.
To be frank, so how to go about with this like a trade-off? So please throw some light on this, sir.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. I think it's a good question. So Dr. Joseph asked, like, see, if you see the wastage, okay, so wastage again, so there was a misconception. So we proved this in number of countries. For example, people ask like, why we need to go for a cold chain? It is going to consume energy. Again, we are going to pollute the environment, etc. But if you see the wastages, so we have like already spending a lot of energy in terms of supplying water, in terms of distributing the food, which is also consuming, which is also emitting carbon. So if we made an individual calculation with respect to a market level, to a firm level, and showed that how much energy you could save if you could prevent waste. So the amount you are going to invest, it will be easily covered, or the pollution what you are going to make with preserving food is lesser than wastage what you are making. So that we have proved with the data. So we made a calculation and showed to the municipal, like for example, in China, we did an analysis to show in a market what would be the cost or carbon emission being produced by wasting rather than investing in a kind of a cold chain. Yeah, there is impact for cold chain. There is like a energy consumption, there is a carbon emission by doing that, but overall we are reducing the carbon emission and the impact like we can say 50% we can reduce by going through this. So that is the justification right now. So in order to have 100% carbon emission, we could reduce. Still, there will be a carbon emission by cold chain or cold refrigeration facility, but the impact will be only 50% compared to this wastage.
Okay, sir. Interesting, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes,
Good evening. This is Yuvraj from President's University, Bangalore.
Yeah.
So, like, as you have said, like there is some percentage of suicide of farmers in India, and also like you told that the government has to take some necessary actions. So already, like, to my knowledge, the government of India has already initiated this farmers double income kind of schemes. So, in your perspective, how do you think that these kind of schemes by our Indian government, how like it helps farmers? As you said, in one side, the suicide rate is increasing. Anyway, the government is also like introducing some new schemes for farmers. So how, in your perspective, how these two can be like related?
No, yeah, it's a good point. I think it's good. I think government has many schemes, many thing. Only when there's a problem is in terms of implementation, in terms of engaging with the local community. I think there needs to be a lot of not only propaganda. It's more of engaging people. It's not about promoting initiatives. Initiatives are good, really good. So the government are doing a good job here, but they need to make sure that they have proper kind of people in place to promote these at the grassroots level. So kind of like that is where we are missing. I think that is where I feel personally I'm away. Still I can sense whenever I come to India, I can see that at the last mile kind of like engagement is missing right now. So people take it lightly. Again, we can't blame government. It is more individual behavior, as well as government in this case can initiate last mile kind of engaging activities. For example, I don't know, there was an initiative to make people literate. Literate meaning is they need to read. So at one point of time, there was something called Arivoli Iyakam. I don't know, in Tamil they say Arivoli is basically like it's an initiative by by the state government to make people aware of how to read and write basic words. So that's a measure they had. But the last mile engagement was substantial. They did a very good job in terms of making sure to have people like engaging colleges, schools, uh, to go to various rural places where they could do like a evening classes and engage with people. So such a kind of momentum should happen. I don't know. I didn't see those kind of momentum. If you wanted to transform things and make things happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the reply. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question from the participant? Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insightful session, sir. Now I request Sangavi to propose the formal vote of thanks. Sangavi, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there. Good evening, everyone, once again. I, Sangavi MP, coordinator from Indian Institute of Plantation Management, take this opportunity to thank Professor Nachiappan Subramanian sir for sharing his insights, especially on research methodology, supply chain, and the quality issues and causes of waste and waste management hierarchy regarding food supply chain. An Indian scenario of the supply chain and the cold chain management and conceptual regarding the blockchain and the meat supply chain. And sir, your insights, especially on the research methodology, have played a major role. Thank you so much, sir, for your insights. And I also thank each and every coordinator for taking part and making this program and the session great success. I thank our each and every participants for giving your participation and taking the use of the opportunity and asking the questions. Thank you each and everyone. And a note for each and every participant: you will have an breaks till 8 o'clock and will resume our next session by 8 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
you
Thank you,
all.
sir.
See you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. The same link we can start 8 to 9, sir. There will be another resource person from UAE. He'll talk about the industry project in food and agribusiness. So if you can stay here, or you can log out and log in with the same link. We'll start at 8 o'clock. Sir, we'll share all the PPT, sir. We are collecting all the PPT. We'll share all the PPT through mail, sir.
ಇದು
Yeah, shall we start the session? Nagaraj, are you there?
Ganesh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, can you switch on your camera also, Nagaraj, so that we can take initial photo? Yeah, we can see you, Nagaraj.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think people will join. Some more people will join. We had a break on 40 to 8 o'clock. Let them join. No, we'll start the session.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So I'll request the coordinator to formally introduce the Nagaraj. Then he'll take over the session.
Yes, sir. A very pleasant good evening to the respected resource person, the coordinators of the program, and our beloved participants. This is Jennifer, coordinator from Indian Institute of Plantation Management, feeling privileged to introduce our respected speaker of the session, Mr. Nagaraj sir, manager from Dubai Islamic Bank, Dubai. Nagarajan sir has over 13 plus years of experience in consumer insights and has worked across sectors in a wide array of consumer studies. Sir has extensive experience in quant research methodology across a wide range of industries, including the food and beverage, financial service, real estate, and government sectors. In food and beverage, Sir has led several strategic projects for both UAE and Saudi brands. The outcome of these studies helped these entities to reshape their brand positioning, understand market strengths, launch new products, and better understand their existing consumer base. Sir is currently heading the insights function in the DIB. Before DIB, he worked as an expert consultant in BCG Consumer Insights Division. Nagarajan sir has a triple master's in management, psychology, and biotechnology. So now I invite Mr. Nagarajan sir to take forward the session. Over to you, sir.
Hi. Okay. So Ganesh, only you will be with the video on, and the others will not be with their video on.
Yeah, mostly they are in video mode off, but they can talk to you. They can unmute and they can chat with you.
Okay.
Fine.
I'm just sharing my screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yeah, we can see the screen. Market research industry perspective.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I think that it's almost end of the day for you guys. I know that you would have been in back-to-back sessions and hope you guys can be interested in attending one more session. Okay, so what I'm trying here to do is I had a discussion with Ganesh, so I'm just trying to set a context on market research as an industry. What are the things that we do and how we execute it? I'm not going deeper into any particular topic because going deeper into any particular topic is a session by itself. Rather, I'm just giving you a very broad outlook for different methodology, different case studies of live cases which I've executed for different brands, largely on the food and beverage sector. Okay, I'm trying to restrict to the food and beverage sector, but feel free to have your questions if you want to elaborate on any particular point. If you have a point of view or if you want to raise a question, feel free to ask. I would prefer it to be much more interactive session than me just rambling for the next 1 hour. Okay, to move on. See, if you look at market research, if you ask me to define market research, I would largely define it in two manners. What market research is all about gathering information in a very systematic manner. And the information, once you have gathered, you need to apply some professional practices in its interpretation and usage. It's not like you gather the information and then you report it in the way that you want. There are some professional ethics that you need to follow. There are some professional approach that you need to follow, because data, I strongly believe that the person who interprets the data is as important as the data himself. So if you're not interpreting the data properly, then two different persons having the same data set can come out with two different final outcomes, two different insights. Okay, the official definition of market research is also there. This is from the SMR Council, which is the governing body of all market research globally. I would not go into the official thing. For me, it's just the two: gathering information systematically and as well as applying professional standards in its interpretation and usage. Then the next question, even when I joined my current organization, DAB, the question that is asked is why we need market research, why we need to do market research. See, market research is always doesn't have a very direct correlation to profitability or revenue. You can it's very difficult to show a direct correlation to profitability or revenue. So market research, I always put it like it's about mitigating risk. Before you launch a particular product or a service in the market, if you don't study whether this product or service will actually work in the market, then you're putting yourself or you're building yourself for a failure. It's good if you do a proper market research so that you avoid any costly mistake. Okay. Then if you already have a product and service, you can also use market research effectively to improve it further. And if you are a pre-existing brand with a huge market share, by studying what happens in the market, what the competition is bringing into the market, and being intelligent and nimble about it, you can retain your leadership and brand share in the market. And finally, if you're an innovative brand, if you're a technology brand, or even if you're a food and beverage brand, we want to identify what are the white space opportunity that exists in the market in terms of what are the unmet needs that exist in the market, which I can develop a product or service for this unmet need and then launch it in the market. So basically for this four key reasons, I would say that market research is a very, very essential department and an essential organization, essential industry to have in our business practice. And if I look at the universe of MR studies, the market research studies, see, if I take market research in industry and look at all the companies that exist in the MR industry, so they will be doing either multiple or at least one of this type of research. Okay, there may be something beyond this, some cutting edge research, but I would say that largely this 9 research which I listed down here will kind of account for close to 98 to 99% of the research business that happens in India and as well as globally. The first one is being the financial market research, which is outside our purview, so we don't need to bother about it. The second is the consumer understanding research, which is the core topic, which I will go deeper into it. And apart from the consumer understanding research, you have the B2B research. B2B research is largely research catering to the corporate sector. So big industrial manufacturing or machinery manufacturing or machinery sales. For those kind of a product, if you want a very, very strategic research, then you do the B2B research. Then you have this CSAT or the NPS research, which is very, very fast catching up. I would say that whenever you visit a bank or you visit a airline, you use an airline, you visit any service provider, you immediately get a SMS from them asking you to pay their service, which falls under the domain of the CSAT research. Then you have the mystery shopping research. If you're a big brand and you want to know whether your end staff are doing or adhering to the policy with regards to their sales, so then you can hire people who will kind of who will behave like a shopper, visit your branches, and then try to evaluate whether your product or services are properly being done or not. Then you have the behavior modeling research, which is largely the psychological based research, which the government conducts a lot in order to identify how to modify the behavior of a particular cohort of people. Then you have the opinion poll research, which I think all of you might be aware of. Opinion poll research being the research that's conducted by all this, political parties to understand how they are faring. Apart from political parties, you will also find government doing a lot of opinion poll research on their policies. And you will also have the international body like WHO trying to do a lot of opinion poll research to understand how their policy is being interpreted globally. Then you have the social research. Social research is an offshoot of opinion poll research and also behavior modeling research. But here it's largely to do with very, very core policy making. And finally, you have the digital research. Digital research is a new field that is recently fast coming up. You have UX, UI researchers, and you also have a lot of neuroscience researchers. I'll also show a couple of examples on this two type of research. Now, any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. I'll proceed. So then we have the Now let us go a little bit deeper into the consumer understanding research. If you look at the consumer understanding research, again, you will find a lot of these terminologies being used across different platform and different lingo of conversation. So I just wanted to give you a brief about what this term means. See, this term is sometimes used interchangeably, and but I still want to give you a very clear definition of what each of this term means. The first one is primary and secondary research. I'm pretty sure that all of you might be aware of it. What is primary research and what secondary research? Basically, primary research is if you're going to the consumer, preparing a questionnaire and conducting the survey and collecting the feedback and then using it for reporting, then it will follow the primary research domain. And then you are the secondary research based on available published information. If you are scanning the web sphere and using that information to build some kind of a model or use it in any kind of reporting, that comes under the domain of secondary research. Then we have the exploratory and the conclusive research. Exploratory research is open-ended research. You don't even know what you're doing the research for. You are just going to a cohort of people trying to conduct different activity like brainstorming or brain spotting or all those things. And then you try to find out what kind of ideas that you can explore for that particular cohort, what kind of products or services you come up with that particular cohort will be really interested in. Those are the exploratory kind of research. Then you have the conclusive kind of research. For example, you know that you have 300 or 3 million people buying your product or services, but you want to understand who are the 3 million people who are buying your product or services. So you want to know who they are, what they do, and where do they buy your product from, and when do they use your product. And you also want to know why they use your product, why they choose your particular brand. So those are the conclusive kind of research. Then we have the syndicated and the proprietary research. So this is very simple. Syndicated research is something that there are a lot of agencies that exist in the market who keep doing studies on what kind of products consumers want, what kind of services they want, what kind of TV programs they would like to watch. So they published a syndicated report. Any agency can go and buy the syndicated research from them. But it is not the difference between a syndicated research and secondary research is secondary research, most of the information is available easily in the public domain free of cost. In syndicated research, you need to pay some X amount of dollars to buy access to the report. And you also have the proprietary research. Proprietary research, or you have a need, you have a, let's say, a question that needs to be answered, then you go to an agency and that agency does a research for you, then you own that research. You own the questionnaire prepared for the research, the report prepared for the research. You are the proprietary owner of this research. That's a proprietary research. Then we have the ad hoc and the continuous research. Ad hoc research are similar to the proprietary research. There's a question, and then for that question, you frame an objective and then you execute the research. It is done once to solve a particular problem. That's ad hoc research. Then you have the continuous research, same brand, but they want to know month on month how consumer perceive their brand, because usually a brand has something called a content calendar for the year. In a year, they'll have in January, I'll run this campaign. During Pongal holidays, I'll run this campaign. During Diwali, I'll have this campaign. Whenever they do different kind of campaign all throughout the year, if they want to see how that campaign or the communication impacts the consumer, then they do something called a continuous research. And then quant and qual. I am again pretty sure that you might be well versed in quant and qual kind of research. Quant is largely to confirm or to justify or validate any particular objective. You take the quantitative approach. You get hard numbers, you get statistics, and you get a very, very factual information. Qualitative is understanding the why, the reason behind why people are behaving. You will get a lot of reasons, but you will not be able to quantify which reason is more important, which is not more important. It's just to understand the consumer psyche. What is their, so how do they feel when they use their product? What cultural, what's the motivation they have to use a particular product? What is the emotion that drives them to use a particular product? So those kind of answers will come from the qualitative approach. Usually, now coming to the core of the research, type of research, usually done from a food and beverage category. If you look at the food and beverage category, so before that product hits the market shelf, so these are the various different kind of research that's typically done. before the product hits the market shelf. And I will just quickly run through each of this different kind of research. And you guys, if you want, see, here is largely about case study. Feel free to ask me questions so that I can give you more information. Actually, I feel like I'm running through my slides, so it will be much more engaging if you have questions and we can really discuss them in detail. See, the first one is the ideation research. Ideation research is something that is done before you even have a product in hand. So why do we do an ideation research? Is you wanted to understand what kind of need, how a consumer exists. Okay, so for example, let me take an example. So you wanted to create a product for health conscious consumer. So what you do is you get a team or you recruit some 30-40 health conscious consumers, you put them in a room, and then there will be a moderator who will give them various tasks to find out how they see life, how they see the product, and how they and what is the white space opportunity where they want a product but the product doesn't exist in the market, and then try to see if they can create a product for that white space opportunity. Okay, so what are the various activities is something called prototyping and brainstorming and worst possible ideas, best possible ideas. There are various different techniques that's being employed by the moderator to arrive at different ideation idea. So I'll just take one thing. So I also given I would say a reference article if you want to read about all different times. So if you take just on the brainstorming, how it works is the moderation exercise. You have 30 different people in the room, and 30 different people. The moderator will keep giving a scenario. So you're going to the gym, and then after workout, what are the things that you expect? So everybody is asked to write what they expect after as soon as they come out of the gym, in terms of what they want to drink, in terms of what they want to eat, and all this thing. So they'll keep it. So like that, a series of 30-40 situations will be created, and each of the situation will be given to the team of the 30 people. And once all the situations are given, the situation not pasted on a board. The 30 situation would be the per day behavior of the people from morning to night. What are the different decision point that particular consumer has? Based on each decision point, 30 scenarios will be selected, and for the 30 scenarios, they will be asked to write whatever comes to their mind, the top of their mind. Everything will be put in a board. It is called as a big black sketching board. Everything will be pasted there. Then what they will do, what the moderator will try to do is they'll break people into a group of 5 people, and each of the 5 people will be asked to take one of this idea, one of this occasion, and then discuss and deliberate about that occasion, why they have written that, and what kind of products they would want to see in that particular occasion, how it can be, how if it is communicated in a certain manner, they will be willing to buy it. So what is the end objective? End objective of this exercise is towards the end of the discussion, towards the 5 hours or 6 hours of discussion, you will have some 30-40 different product ideas. And this 30-40 different product areas is taken into a subsequent brainstorming session. In the subsequent brainstorming session, you will have the key leads, for example, the head of R&D, the head of marketing, head of the key people inside the company will be there in the discussion. So they will take this 30 ideas and they will brainstorm each idea, why it will work in the market, why it will not be able to work in the market. Some ideas might be really great, but the R&D will say that we can never produce a product for this particular idea. So basis this, they will then cut down this 30 ideas and then they'll try to bring it to 5 or 6 different ideas. Okay, then they will try to see if they can take up any of this idea. So that's the next step of the research. So one example was in a large scale ideation session that I was involved is for a brand again called Nade. We were exploring the possibility as the same example I was giving. So for the health conscious consumer, is there a white space opportunity for us to launch a new product for them? So what we did was we again bought the same health conscious consumer, and one of the outcome of this research is all the health conscious consumers wanted to move out of the milk product. So they were looking for alternative milk product, which was the outcome that we got from this ideation session. Okay, so once you got the idea, I told you that the first level you do it with the consumers. You got 30 ideas. The 30 ideas you took it, and then you had a secondary discussion with the key stakeholders in the company, and they have cut down the 30 ideas into 5 or 6 different ideas. So this 5 or 6 different ideas, again, is practically not possible for a brand to go and then prepare 5 or 6 different ideas and then launch it in the market, hoping that they will make money out of all the 5 ideas. So what brand usually does is this 5 to 6 different ideas, they convert it into a concept card. What is a concept card? A concept card is a description of the idea. The one-line idea is converted into a one-slider description. What is there in the concept is what is the consumer challenge? This is the consumer challenge. So people who are very health conscious really struggle to keep themselves hydrated with drinks apart from water. This is a challenge. And for the challenge, the brand is coming out with something. The brand is now coming out with a health, let's say, milk alternative product like a soya milk or almond milk they're coming out with. Then the item that is explained is the challenge. The second item that is explained is what's the product that they're coming out with. And the final is what is the reason to believe. Soya milk is found to be found to have more protein content than a normal milk. So using this three frame architecture, they will prepare some 6 different concepts. And all this concept, you will then take it to the consumer. We'll do a very detailed evaluation. We'll go and talk to consumers. We'll try to find out how they react to the concept. Then we will identify which of this one concept is really interesting, which is really liked by most of the consumer. And that concept idea is then taken forward by the R&D. So basically, in each step of the way, we are trying to reduce the loss to the bank, reduce the loss to the brand by weeding out the less profitable ventures. That's what research is always about. So again, this is another case study. So what we did was the background you see is a concept. That concept we created for a brand called Funfills. I think that brand no longer exists in the market. This was for Kevin Care. I think I created it in somewhere in 2011, 2012. And basically, if you look at here, there's no challenge because there are already so many candies that exist in the market. So we directly got into explaining the attributes of the product, including Funfills, a unique new candy that you can mouthful of juicy fun. And basically, the reason to believe was it's a liquid fun candy is the reason to believe. And the key selling point for that particular product is just for 1 rupee. Nowadays, you get nothing for 1 rupee. But yeah, again, in 2011, 2012, it was a different scenario altogether. And here what we did was this is one of the concepts I exposed to you. So these guys were also trying some 6-7 different candy ideas. All the candy ideas we explored, and then we zeroed on this one candy idea because majority of the kids whom we interviewed, they like this candy idea than any other candy idea. So once people like the product and the R&D has produced the product, and you now have the product in hand. Now the thing is you still cannot go and launch it in the market because there's a lot of chance that the product might not be liked by most of the consumers. Of course, you are done your internal testing, but you are not done any large scale testing. So before doing a product launch, there is product testing is one of the mandatory steps every FMCG company follow. It's not only from a product testing point of view, it's also from a regulatory point of view. They also want to ensure that when they gave the product to a controlled sample of 400 or 500 people, the product has not really harmed anyone. So that kind of an assurance also they need before they launch a product in the market. And in terms of product testing, again, the case point here being, so we tested the same Funfills candy. And Funfills candy, again, when the R&D develop, they try to develop multiple different type of formula. For example, one with the blueberry and flavor, one with strawberry flavor, and one has orange flavor. And then they also created 2 variation of that flavors. One is strawberry flavor, just the essence. Another strawberry flavor essence with some fruit bits. And similarly for each of the flavor, they have different combination. So using all this combination of different products, we tested it with the consumer to find out one, which of this essence, which of these flavors consumers really like, so that we can go for a market launch, and in which type they prefer. Do they prefer it with just the essence or with the essence and the fruit bits? So both this hypothesis they internally had, they were able to very successfully validate it, and then launch it in the market by doing a product test. And this is a very, very strategic. Another case in point for a product test is for a chocolate brand, for one of the leading chocolate brand. This is Mars International. So what we did is Mars International was launching their Cadbury's range of chocolates. I think in 2011, 2011 or 2012, they were launching their Cadbury's range of chocolates in India. You know that in India, in majority of the stores, the mom and pop stores that you find on the road corner, they don't have the facility to refrigerate the chocolate. And since Cadbury's, since Mars International, all their brands are being prepared for global market, and it's largely present in the supermarket and hypermarket chain, they never made their product to be resistant to heat. So these products always maintain their consistency when they were in a cold temperature. But the moment you take them out of the cold temperature, they lose a lot of their consistency and they become very, very watery. So what they did was, in India alone, they developed a formulation which can be strong even if it's stored at a room temperature. And they want to benchmark this product against the Cadbury's Dairy Milk, where they felt was a very, very standard product in the market. So we did a very large scale testing of the chocolate brand across 6 different cities, and even in any city, we did it across multiple locations inside the city. And we are testing in multiple temperature conditions. We tested in winter, we tested in spring, we tested in summer to find out whether whatever results that were given in winter is still holding good in summer, or still holding good in the rainy season. All these things we did with a large scale study, which was very successful, because basis this study, we were able to successfully launch a product the very next year. And then you also have something called a variant research. The variant research would be an example of the thing that I was explaining. In Fonfils, we were talking about the different flavors like strawberry, orange, and blueberry, different flavors. So if you have 15 different flavors, then a variant research will tell you what combination of flavors will give you 100% reach in the market. For example, if you're a layman, you're just going, you're having 10 different flavors, and then you're going to talking to 200 different people. Then you find out that chocolate is most liked, and strawberry is the second most liked, and orange is the third most liked. And then you might decide, okay, these are the top 3 flavors, we'll launch it in the market. But in variant research, we don't do that. Variant research is not about identifying which are the top flavors. Yes, top 3 or top 4 flavors is also identified as a subset of the research. The variant research will tell you which combination of flavor will give you 100% reach in the market. What do I mean by that is, if chocolate is liked by 80% of the population, it means that 20% of the population don't like chocolate. Okay, you're launching a chocolate Fonfils, you're not going to get the 20% market share. So, but if you feel like that 20% of the people who don't like chocolate, they like maybe a cranberry, they like maybe a blueberry. So though strawberry is the second biggest flavor liked by most of the consumers with a 70% acceptance rate, but the 70% has a close to 90% overlap with chocolate. Basically, what it means is the 70% people who like strawberry, and you have 80% people who like chocolate. But this 70% is a subset of people who like chocolate. Basically, people who like chocolate also like strawberry. Okay, if you want to reach the 100% of the market, then if you just launch chocolate and strawberry, it's only going to give you a maximum of 80% of the market, because the people who like chocolate also like strawberry. There's a huge overlap between the people who like these 2 flavors. So now you need to find out who are the people who go beyond this. For example, the 20% of the people who don't like chocolate, what flavors they like. They like blueberry, they like lychee, they like some other flavor. Then you need to launch that flavor in combination with chocolate so that you have 100% reach in the market, as against only 60 or 70% if you just launch the top two flavor. I hope I'm very clear in defining this. If you have a doubt, let me know. I can explain it even further. Okay. So the live case example here was for Miranda. We did a large scale variant testing research. So what Miranda did was 1 year they found out that they wanted to customize their Miranda taste for different Indian flavors. In India, there is a lot of bimbu masala, green mango flavor, orange flavor. There are a lot of ethnic taste profiles that we have. We have the tamarind taste. We have the different taste profile from north to south. We have different unique taste, local flavors and local taste. So what they did was they identified 25 different flavors of local flavors, and they mixed it with their formulation, and they came out with 25 different Miranda flavors. And this 25 different Miranda flavors, they did a large scale market testing. I was involved in the project. We did a very large scale market testing project. And then we shortlisted which are the combination of the flavors, which is going to give them 100% reach in the market. And basis that they launched the product in the market. I think the product is later withdrawn because they were not able to maintain the supply chain, because when you're manufacturing different product, they need to maintain different fragmented supply chain. So what happened was Miranda as a category was not growing, but their category of people, for them to cater the same 14%, if they have only Miranda also, they're catering to the same 14%. If they have a combination of different Miranda flavors, they're still catering to the same 14%. So they thought that, okay, fine, we'll drop those flavor and then we'll go with the core Miranda. But this was an interesting thing that we tried in 2015. I'm just playing the video, which is good. So these are the 3 flavors that's been shortlisted in research, and then we finally they launched it in the market. Okay. Then finally, we're coming to the last segment. The last segment is on the branding research. See, branding research goes beyond logo research. Logo research is one step in the branding research. Beyond the logo research, we also look at the tagline research. We are trying to find out what tagline better connects with the people. And we also look at the brand story. Every brand, if you look at, they have a story. For example, if you look at Apple, the story is break boundaries. That's the story in 1980s when they actually launched Apple with a tagline where there's a very iconic ad which you'll find even if you're searching in YouTube. That's a story with which they launched Apple as a brand. And Google's story. The Google story is the don't be evil. That's a tagline with which Google as a brand was launched. There's a lot of research that goes into narrating this. It's not, the tagline is different and the brand story is different. What the brand stands for, what kind of communication that the brand should use, how the product should be positioned by the brand. All these things, there's a lot of things that goes into it before that brand is packed, before that product is packaged, the particular brand and the name, and then put it on the market. And you also have the packaging research. Packaging research is a little bit, there are 2 aspects to the packaging research. Packaging research, one is on the visual elements of it, whether it looks right, whether it connects better with the audience, whether the people actually understand the meaning of the product by just looking at the pack. So that is one element of the visual elements of the packaging research. And there is also the usefulness of the packaging research. This is another case in point. Here we are testing the visual elements of the pack. In this pack, you will see that there's one visual element that's different in the pack. We try to do a research to find out which visual element connected better with the consumer, and which visual element conveyed what story to them personally. And then there is also in the same pack research, the usability of the pack. Usability of the pack is in the same pack. Once you open the pack, how easy is for you to put the lid on the top of the pack and be able to conveniently store in the refrigerator. So on the reusability test and as well as on the packaging elements test, both these things are conducted in tandem to find out whether the pack connects really with the audience before we launch in the market. Case in point being, so one of our client launched a new cheese product in Iran. I think this was again in 2015. They did not do any packaging research and they launched a product. As soon as they launched a product, there was a huge takeoff. The product was obviously sold all the shop shelf, everywhere the product is sold, and they were really happy. But what happened was, none of the people who bought the product, they came back to buy the product. And they thought, okay, the product has something has gone really wrong and already there's some issue, and they were trying to solve it. So we were involved in that project. So first we did a product test with we said everybody really loved the product. Nobody had an issue with the product. Then after doing a lot of diagnostic interviews, we realized that people were very unhappy with the pack because the pack was very difficult to open. And once they opened the thing, they were not able to reseal the pack and then store the remaining in their refrigerator. So this pissed off a lot of their consumer. So though the product was good, their positioning was right, and people were buying the product, because of one element of using a plastic wrap, which is very difficult for people to open and difficult for people to close it back, they were losing a significant market share. So the diagnostic result was able to tell them that, and immediately they could correct that problem and they could relaunch a product and they could gain back the market share. But the case in point here being packaging research, how you package and how you position your product in the shop shelf is very, very important. So a lot of technology has come into packaging research. One is on the neuro-based pack test. So now what it does is you can, if a client has multiple pack tests, so there is, of course, you do a physical demo test, because physical demo, nothing beats looking at it in 3D in hand and then designing on the product. But we also do a lot of this neuro test where we put the pack shelf in a simulator shop shelf, and then we look at a consumer's eye tracking movement and everything, and then we find out that where their eyes first fall on the pack, and which elements of the pack they really get attracted to, and which elements of the pack they get repelled from, and all this. This is subconsciously you're testing a pack with a consumer, so that you also are ensuring that there's no subconscious trigger for people to hate buying your product. And then you have the shop shelf research. In shop shelf research, also there's a lot of science behind it. You guys might be aware. I think there are a lot of movies now talks about the shop shelf research. So in shop shelf is in which combination your product has to be placed and where your product has to be positioned in the store, so that people are more likely to buy your brand, to buy your product. There's a lot of now again in shop shelf research also. First, it used to be very, very cost prohibitive, because we used to usually rent a warehouse, and used to get all this physical shop shelf set up, and we used to stock the products, and then we used to hire people to walk around the shop shelf and find out what product they get register to them in subconscious mind and all this thing. But now all the shop shelf research has become more technology enabled. So we put eye tracking goggles, and then we let people walk in the shop shelf, and then we later look at the recording and find out which shop elements people got really attracted to which shop element, where the product is placed, whether it should be placed at eye level, it should be placed at above the eye level, it should be placed in the bottom aisle. All these things were all the things we are able to better evaluate and better plan for. With a lot of technology coming into the shop shelf research. And this is one such research where you see a lady wearing eye tracking equipment, eye tracking glass, and then she's walking through the shop shelf. And the red elements are where our vision is falling, and the green elements are where she has some kind of a scene. Depending on that, you can clearly understand where your product should be actually placed in the shop shelf. Then on the promo research is a very complicated kind of a research, because logic tells you that the more promotion you give, people are more likely to buy your product. But promotion also has a very negative connotation with your brand, your profitability, and your revenue from that particular product. So promotion should be a very fine balance it should be done in a very, very fine manner. So a lot of promotion research, we do something called a conjoint methodology, where a product in different combination and in different pack sizes, we try to see which combination is really, which product with which combination is and with which kind of a discount is really attractive to the consumers. Using this information, we can model the data, and the beauty of doing this kind of large scale conjoint researches, you can also model your competition behavior. For example, if you're giving a 5% discount, if suddenly your competition to counter you, if they come with an 8% discount, then how likely are you to lose market share to your competition? Again, you are going aggressive with 20% discount. How likely are you to gain significant market share from the competition? And for doing each of this promotion step, the research also will tell you that how much brand erosion that you have. For example, if a brand is always sold in the promotion, then people will start thinking that this brand is a low quality brand. They are always in promotion. They are unnecessarily inflating the price and then they are giving promotion. So they never buy your brand at the MRP, at the retail price is set for the brand. So promotion research is more art than science, and there are a lot of psychological modeling that goes into it before arriving at what kind of a promotion will work for what kind of a brand or what kind of a category. Then finally, you do the product launch. Before you do the product launch, you do something called a buyer persona or a segmentation research. Why this is very important? See, initially segmentation research used to be very important because you want to identify what are the different cohorts of people who will be more that exist for that particular category. And among these cohorts, which are the cohorts that you can really attract or will be really interested in buying a product, then you try to create a campaign for this cohort, target this cohort. So it has become even more important or even more powerful with all this social media marketing. So all this digital marketing that's now currently available, you can take the segmentation information, feed it into the targeting algorithm of social media, and the social media will exactly know to which profile of people, which kind of ads, this new product that you're launching, this kind of ads should be targeted or shown to them. Accordingly, you will get better conversion for your product, and your product will also reach the right targeted audience much better in the market. So segmentation research usually is done on a huge sample size, and there are a lot of tools and methodologies available to do the segmentation research. So again, here also there is you most likely will work with a specialist because they will be able to build your model, targeting model based on the segments that you identify, and which will be effectively used in the campaign, essentially used in the running the campaign much more effectively. So I think I've covered, again, since there's no interaction, I thought there'll be a lot of interaction, a lot of Q&A, so that I was pacing the presentation. But since there are none, so I think we kind of finished it in 43 minutes, I guess. And do you guys have any question, or you want me to explain anything in a little bit more detail?
Hello.
Kiran, you have something?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. Sir, if my voice is audible?
Yeah, your voice is audible. A little bit lower, but yeah, it's audible.
Yes, I have not having a question, just to clarify my doubt that in all the research, is primary data is enough to take a particular decisions on any product, sir?
See, okay, this is a very good question. I'll tell you my recent example. Again, this was with during my tenure with Boston Consulting Group. So we were doing a study for Lenskart. Okay, it's a large scale study. We are doing it across different cities and everything. See, they had some 10 different questions. Okay, I cannot go into the question because of all the confidentiality issue, and it's a very recent project. Yes. They have 10 different questions, but in this 10 different questions, I could answer successfully only 4 different questions from the primary research. So to answer the rest of the questions, what we did was we asked a lot of data from them. So since it's an e-commerce company, they have so much of information about the consumer, like in terms of how many products are sold, what is the average value of each product, how frequently the same consumer comes back to buy the product, and how likely come back and buy the product. If they do a sale, then what kind of turnover they have in the store. If they don't do a sale, and what kind of turnover have they in the store, and how long it takes for them to deliver a particular product in a particular city. So using a lot of their internal data and information, we were able to answer the rest of the 6 questions they had. So it doesn't mean that every time a brand comes with a question to you, you only need to do a primary research to answer. So sometimes, yes, I would say that 8 out of 10 times, the brand will only come to you when they don't have their internal answer. Sometimes the brand also will come to you when they don't know what to do with their internal data. That time you can ask them to provide the internal data, have a look at the internal data, and then you can come out with your solution to answer that question. Okay, so primary data is one tool in your arsenal. It doesn't mean that that's the only approach for you to solve a problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other question? Ganesh?
Yeah, any other question from any participant? Either you can unmute and you can talk, or you can put it in the chat window. Either one is fine. Yeah, Sindhu, you have any question?
No, sir.
Oh, fine. Yeah. Okay. If there is no question, we can we'll wind up the session. Thank you, Nagaraj. Thank you for your time. You accepted our invitation with short notice, and you given a lot of insight, real-time example, real-time projects on different project across the market research process from idea to implementation. It's really interesting. So we share the recorded video with participants. Okay, if there any doubt, they will contact you. Okay,
Sure.
now I'll request coordinator to propose the formal vote of thanks. Then we can.
Yes, sir. So good evening, everyone. I feel extremely honored to give this vote of thanks on behalf of everyone to our respected speaker of the session, Mr. Naharajan sir, for sharing his immense insights on the topic industry projects in food and agribusiness, where we learned about market research, consumer understanding research, different types of researches, etc., which was very informative and interesting as sir backed the topics with cases. Sir, I wholeheartedly thank you for sparing time from your busier schedule and handling this session and making it grand success. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank all the coordinators of Indian Institute of Plantation Management for organizing and coordinating this program. I would also like to thank all the participants for your encouragement and active participation, which was the key for the session success. Thank you, everyone. And there is a small note for all the participants. Tomorrow, the session will be held at 7 p.m. So tomorrow also we'll be having 2 resource people. So I kindly request everyone to log in at 7 p.m. Thank you.
I think tomorrow there will be MCQ test at 7:30, not 7:30, 9 to 9:30. Okay, that is very important. Everybody to attend that MCQ test. With this, we are wind up with today's session. We'll meet tomorrow. Okay. So thank you, Nagaraj. Thank you for your time. I think you had a lot of work.
Bye, Ganesh. Good night.
Very good.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Nagaraj.
Bye.